Hello, everybody, and welcome to the June 6th, 2023 iteration of the Kubernetes SIG-Windows community meeting. As always, these meetings are uploaded and recorded to YouTube, so be sure to adhere to the CNCF Code of Conduct. We're a little bit behind, so let's just jump into things. In terms of announcements, I think still only announcement is that 128 enhancement freeze is coming up. I believe that's, next Thursday. So I think that's the next major milestone for that. Does anybody else have any announcements? Okay, next we can go on to new contributors. Everybody on the call has been here before though, but if anybody wants to say hi, feel free to do so. Yeah, pause for a minute. Okay, before we jump into the SIG-Windows DevTools administration, Dim's pinged SIG-Windows Slack. I just wanted to raise some awareness. Let me get a link to the Slack. It looks like there's a couple of Windows jobs that have been failing, like SIG-Windows test jobs that have been failing for a long time. About half of those are GCE jobs, and about half of them are like Azure Disk, Azure File jobs. And the ask is to either reduce their frequency or disable them. I'm getting a link to the thread in Slack right now. Does anybody have any preferences? I'm kind of inclined to just, except for the SIG-Windows KPNG job, just disable pretty much all the jobs because I think people aren't looking at them and we can re-enable them if needed. I'll pull up a list of the jobs real quick too. Yeah, so these are the jobs that are failing. I'll put this in blank too. We've got GCE 124 master container D. Maybe I'll reach out to the Google folks and see if any of them can help with that.
I mean, it seems like, yeah, you would delete them and just put something on the mailing list, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or in Slack. The alpha job's failing, James. I think we're still looking at that. We're still looking at that, right? Well, that's a PR job.
Yes, I have a PR to fix that. So.
Okay. Yeah. So let me just drop this there, and I think for most of them, especially the ones that have been failing for like a year, just disable them for now, and then we can re-enable them if nobody's got time to look at it. That's pretty much all I've got for the test stuff. Arvind, do you want to go into SIG-Windows DevTools?
Yeah, I was hoping Matthias, I know he's been busy these days. It's really his agenda item. I don't want us to talk and make a decision when he's not around. So I'm not sure what to do. Have you heard from Matthias recently, Jay?
No, I was in Palo Alto last week for work, and then I'm back now. So I just flew in this morning on a red eye. So I don't know what's going on.
So let's do this. I'll suggest to him that he adds this to the agenda whenever he has a chance to come for the meeting. And we can discuss it at that point. I have an opinion, but I don't want to just sit and discuss this when he's not there and contribute. Yeah. So I'll take an action item to ping him on Slack and see when he can make it, and then we can add it.
Okay.
Anything else? Oh, James.
Yeah, I was just going to call out that somebody from the community a couple weeks ago said they were going to work on that, and they did. So there's a PR for the Windows exporter that fixes the networking. I left a few comments, but if anybody else wants to take a look, we can. And then the other one was just quick update on the pod and container stats. Mancy and I met last week, and the alpha job is failing, but I got a PR to fix that into SIG-Windows testing. And then I also found 2 bugs in the container D code that I wrote based off of that. So I've got 2 PRs into container D. One of them's already been backported to 1.7, and then the other one is under review. So we're moving along there.
And is SIG-Node still targeting beta for that? Or
Yes, so they just opened up the KEP for,
I think I saw that.
or they just updated the KEP for that, and so that is the plan, I think.
Yeah. I guess for anybody who's joining from last week, we had a lot of issues with the SIG-Windows test jobs. It turned out that Cappy, this wasn't pinned to us, but like our CapC clusters auto moved forward to a new version of Calico so that the Windows nodes didn't have it. So that was kind of all of that.
What was that? Why did it? I still don't know. I still don't understand.
I don't think we don't know yet. Somebody's
Yeah.
looking into why 126 breaks on Azure, but we don't have a.
Okay, so it's probably something Azure Calico related that has nothing to do with Windows.
Yes.
Yeah, we were seeing the same issues just on like Linux, only like Linux nodes.
Nice, yeah. So maybe it's related to the fact that Calico has 2 different ways of doing CNI, and it got confused about whether it was doing Azure native CNI or whether it was doing overlay or something like that. Or is that a crazy thought? I don't know.
No idea. It's not a crazy thought. It's just.
I don't think we've looked at it, had a chance to look at it since it mitigated.
I can't wait to hear the exciting conclusion to this story.
The seal is working through that right now. So
the weirdest thing is breaking DNS periodically. It wasn't like really when you were pulling containers or something. Like it was, yeah, okay.
Well, there was all of those like error messages about couldn't resolve the container, like the container URI.
Yeah.
But
yeah, so what, like the Linux was updated, but Windows wasn't. And so that was one problem. And that was why I think maybe on the Windows side, we weren't seeing anything with those set of failed tests, is because we were running a different version of Calico than the Linux nodes were. But then the Linux nodes on top of that were flaking with like pod startups and other things like that. So I think there was like multiple layers of issues.
it looked like other Cappy providers were also hit an issue at the same time too. So I don't know if it's specific to Azure or if there was just an issue in Kubernetes that wasn't caught, but yeah, we'll maybe get to the bottom of it sometime.
You ran it, the test, and it worked. The weirdest thing is that you ran it and it worked.
Yeah.
I went into the cluster and I ran it and it worked everything worked fine when I went into that cluster.
Yeah, I deleted the cluster before I checked. I did make sure, I did check the version of Calico we had on the Windows nodes, but I didn't check the version of Calico on the Linux nodes. But that was very strange.
And I ran the same test that was failing multiple times. I ran it like 5 times in a row and it didn't fail.
Yeah. Yeah, I ran a couple of the tests and tried to do them in parallel too, and they all passed. I don't know. All right, does anybody else have anything they want to discuss?
I guess there's a minor update on the Windows proxy stuff, which is tangential. I need to find Damon and figure out when he wants to do a demo of the new stuff. But there is some possibility that SIG Network might eventually come up with a way to plug to vendor an in-tree proxy, but there's no KEP for that yet. But they're trying to figure out whether there's a way they can do it with staging, and that's gone back and forth multiple times. So at some point, I just figured it's a warning, right? Like, we may have a better way to do an out of tree proxy, or maybe a more official way than using the KPNG, but that's not a concern to me unless it's a concern to other people, because I think the hard part is getting the out of tree proxy working and building the HNS endpoints and all that stuff properly. And I think the easier part is figuring out where to get endpoint slices and services from, right? So I think Mark, you warned me about this at one point, and you were, and so but there's still no answer, right? So I still think KPNG's the only game in town for doing this kind of thing. But someone might figure out a way to do some in-tree vendoring thing, but I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. So just letting you all know.
Has anybody else done an out of tree queue proxy and is actually using it? It seemed like there was some interest from other people with KPNG. Did anybody go ahead and do that, or are there proxy implementations just in the KPNG repository?
Everyone else built their out of tree proxies before KPNG was sort of really had been kind of usable outside of the, because like we didn't make it so you could vendor KPNG until about maybe a year ago.
Okay.
Every other out of tree implementation didn't have a choice, but they had to copy all of the kube proxy code. So there's just copy paste stuff, right?
And then modify.
Yeah. So everybody else is copy pasted, and well, we talked about this before. We may just decide to copy paste also, because that is a really easy way to solve this problem if we wanted to, right? So copy paste is still an option, right? You just copy, but for folks that don't know, by that, what we mean here is literally you copy paste all of the stuff inside of package/proxy into another Go repository, figure out a way to get all the client Go dependencies for the unsupported vendoring in Kubernetes to work, which isn't hard. Jordan Liggett has like a blog post or something about how to do it.
Oh, really?
Or not a blog post, but he has a Slack message or something, and it's like it's like a whole bunch of Go mod things that that you pin the commit of the of the individual staging repositories or whatever, or non-staged repositories. You could do something like that, and then you vendor client Go, and then you just say, okay, you just have package proxy running in a different code base. Something like that. It's not it's not that awkward, but it's certainly a lot more technical debt than necessary. So it would be our last resort. Anyways, if people have strong opinions, file an issue on Windows Service Proxy and tell us we're crazy.
You guys might be crazy anyway, but
Don't really have anything else.
yep. All right, I'm gonna stop the recording.
Mark, before we go, you remember during the backlog refinement meeting, we had discussed what to do about the docs meeting. So we thought we'll bring it up during this meeting, right? So let me add it to the agenda so that it's there. Oh, thanks, Mark.
Yeah, so we used to have, well, I guess we still have on the calendar a docs meeting that was every other Thursday on the alternating weeks of the triage or the backlog refinement meeting. And we're wondering if we want to bring that back up for now. That time actually doesn't work the best for me anymore. I was wondering if other folks are interested in, I mean, I could probably make it work sometimes, but should we just try bringing that back up again, Arvin?
As in, we start attending that meeting again?
Yeah.
We
I
can
think-
try
I
it,
think we
Mark.
should at
But
least- there's still that issue that's open, and we looked at it at the last backlog refinement meeting, and there was a lot of to-dos to just review certain pages that were, I think we weren't sure, like, we didn't really identify anything that was bad about the, like, that we wanted to restructure about those pages, but there was all, but we just wanted to make sure the content was up to date, because it tends to not stay up to date over time. So I think we should maybe meet a couple of times until we at least close out that issue.
that's fine, Mark. It mainly, if that slot doesn't work for you, we should maybe consider moving it to a better slot.
Yeah.
And we were also, what was the other thing we were hoping for is to, the other thing we are noticing is people are not either aware of that meeting or are not attending it, right? And it looks like there's sparse attendance today for some reason. So again, I feel like people have not heard us talking about this docs meeting, and we're not going to get much attendance there either, because that's the kind of work we could get like new contributors to start working on. And it's very, it's a good way for people to start getting involved. So yeah, I'm not sure how to move forward, Mark. Like, we definitely don't need to have that meeting if there's a conflict, or I should say, we shouldn't have the meeting in the slot where it is at currently, given you have a conflict. One thing we can maybe do is, if we find that our agenda is light, like on certain days, we make it a day that we talk about docs.
Yeah, I was gonna say, why are you doing this? Why don't you just do it in here? We got, if we just go faster, y'all can do this in this meeting, unless you guys really want another meeting.
No, we don't. At least I don't.
Let's add it to the agenda. It seems like, unless there's the SIG-Windows DevTools discussions, the rest of it is pretty light. Next week we can bring it back up. I'll get a link to the issue. It's in K website, and I'll add it for the next week. And if folks are here to discuss image building stuff, we can bump that out, or we can prioritize that over the docs stuff. And not focus on the docs.
I think that's a good,
I think it's a good idea.
approach. And I think maybe we just delete that meeting, Mark. That's there on all our calendars at this point.
I'll do that, and I will send an email to the mailing list and on Slack, just saying we're gonna start bringing that up in this community meeting.
Okay, that sounds good.
I would propose that we could also bring up like doing a little bit of triaging if we have time in this meeting as well.
I know a lot of other SIGs.
100% agree.
I know we have that.
But a lot of other SIGs have longer community meetings. I feel like sometimes there's not enough time in this meeting, and sometimes there's too much time. So it's hard to, you can time box it too if it looks like the agenda's light.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just if it's a light agenda meeting, let's do some triaging, and I think it just gets exposure to other people.
Yeah, that sounds good, James. I like that idea.
We
don't need to have that,
right? So other SIGs, they meet every other week or something like that sometimes. So yeah, we do everything today, everything on Tuesdays. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
And worst case, we can consider starting this meeting earlier if we find that we don't have enough time. But I don't know, bump it up by 15 minutes or something.
Most of us, or a lot of us, are here for the
Yeah.
triage anyway, or the CI triage meeting anyway.
All right, I can.
Windows Day.
Today's just community meeting day.
Windows
Many SIGs have all of their meetings on Tuesday.
Every day is a Windows Day, Jay.
Yeah.
Today's a Windows Day.
All right, thanks, Mark. Nothing else for me.
All right, thanks. Yeah, we'll bring up the doc stuff next week too. I'm gonna drop for Sig Node.
See you on Slack, folks.
So yeah.